Did you know it is a scientific fact that the more often your booty comes off the bench while you are performing the bench press, the less booty you're getting at home? Hi, I'm Patrick, your friendly neighborhood mildly autistic gentleman. I happen to have also bench pressed over 600 pounds in competition for multiple years.
It's up 277.5 kilos, 611 pounds. This is up 12.5 kilos from his opener, and he walked it out. Good land.
And I'm here to fix your bench press. The bench press is a movement that utilizes every muscle from the ground up. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, that ground up aspect of the bench press. You can probably get away with benching a significant amount of weight without using leg drive whatsoever. But once you start to get stronger, it becomes more and more important to utilize the leg drive in order to create a strong base and get some good pop off your chest when performing the bench press. Leg drive is one of those things that has multiple functions when it comes to the bench press. It provides stability and power off the chest specifically. But it's not one of those things where you're going to get both if you use the same type of leg drive. It's one of those things that's kind of like a spectrum. And I would know all about being on a spectrum because you can either have a leg drive that will support a lot of stability, or you can have a leg drive that kind of sacrifices that stability but has way more power output and is a little more explosive off the chest. And I'll explain the both to you. Before we get into the nuances of foot position when it comes to leg drive for the bench press, there's a couple things that we have to understand about the bench press and how leg drive and foot position affect each other in a kind of a symbiotic relationship. If you think of the bench press as a purely systemic physics thing, you'll notice that the base of the bench press is based on 3 points of contact. And if you don't have a strong base, you're not going to be able to perform the bench press that well. The 3 points of contact are your shoulders with the bench and both of your feet. And the relationship between the distances between those objects is very important in understanding how the leg drive and foot position are going to affect the bench press. The two different scenarios that will have your leg drive has two different foot positions. The equilateral triangle is a triangle because it's got those three vertices, which is your feet and your shoulders, at an equal distance apart from each other. This means that you're going to have a very stable base. It's very strong. A lot of engineers use equilateral triangles in their designs to make the most stable structure possible. So what you want when you are trying to make a stable leg drive, a stable foot position, is equal distance between your feet and your shoulders. So that's going to mean that you're going to have your feet spread out a little further. You're going to have a nice, strong base. When you set up for the bench press for a stable foot position, you're going to have a foot position where you set up, and then you're going to want to push your feet out and push your heels out as well as your knees. This is going to put a lot of tension on your quads and your hips, and that is good, and it is very strong and stable. And this puts more and more equal distance between your feet and your shoulders. So when you're benching and you push your heels out, you've got a very stable base. And that is the most stable way to have your feet in position while performing the bench press. But there's another option. There's an option that sacrifices some of that stability for more power generation going on in the bench press. And that takes a more narrow, more isosceles triangle relationship between the shoulders and the feet. So you want your feet a little closer, but you're going to be more on your heels, and you're going to have your feet a little further away from you. So when you set up, you set up and you either pull your feet in closer to your head and you get more tension in your quads, or you bring your legs a little further out and you're able to put your heels down. Some feds require that your heels be down. So you can't have the super tight, super narrow leg drive because your heels aren't touching the ground. But feds like the USAPL require your heels be on the ground. So you need to have your feet a little further away so that you can have your heels touching the ground. And what this does, actually a little more narrow for me would be better, is it provides a nice launching point. So you get a lot of explosiveness as you drive through your heels. So those are the two different types of foot position when it comes to leg drive in the bench press. Now that we have the basics of where to put your feet when you are doing the bench press, let's talk about what leg drive actually is. So a lot of times when people hear the word leg drive, they think just push with your feet. And that's not entirely wrong, but it's also not entirely right. Leg drive is when you drive with your legs. Of course, that's the part that's right. But the direction that you drive with your legs is very important, because if you drive with your legs in the wrong direction, your butt's going to come up or you're going to have no power whatsoever. Now, leg drive in both the stable foot position and the power foot position is going to be identical. You're going to want to push in a horizontal direction. Now, you might be thinking, won't my shoulders slip on the bench? No. Especially as you increase the weight on your bench press, the slickness of the bench pad isn't going to really matter much. But if you are feeling some slippage going on, put some chalk on your back. That will provide more friction between your back and the bench for you to get a better leg drive going. But if you have a sticky vinyl bench pad that has a lot of friction, almost a rubbery texture like this, where it's got, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got like a knurl pattern, kind of like a bench press, or not a bench press, but a deadlift bar, where it's got this knurl pattern that's going to cling onto you a little bit better. You're not going to want the chalk, because the chalk is going to get in between those grooves and there's not going to be as much surface area keeping your back in contact with the bench. So you're going to lose friction because it's going to be a surface area dependent versus force downward dependent force going on. So you don't want that chalk getting in those ridges and making a flatter surface with less surface area to have friction on. So the direction that you want your leg drive is completely horizontal. You want to push your feet through your heels in the direction of your toes. So you basically want to be able to, you don't want to rock back and forth. You want to be tight enough that you don't have any sort of rocking going on. So when you set up and you take your foot position, I personally am a stable foot position practitioner. I get my foot position, I move my knees out, my heels out, I take the bar, and I'm pushing horizontal away from myself, and I keep that leg drive, and then when I press, I kind of like hit the afterburners. And when you take the power leg drive, it's a little bit more accentuated because you have more power in your quads, more tension in your quads than in your hips. So you take it and you get that horizontal leg drive. And what that does is it compresses your spine a little bit. So when you compress your spine while doing the bench press, it's not actually like getting the little pads in between your vertebrae more compressed. What it does is, because you have an arch in your back, because it's safer to bench with an arch in your back, it does kind of like two things. The arch in your back provides that stability, almost like a bridge with heavy trucks driving over it. You don't want to drive over a flat bridge because there's no stability. And also, when you compress it, you got this bridge. When you compress it, it goes up. And that upward momentum allows you to transfer that pressure, that force from your legs into the bar. And you can almost double that up by flicking your belly. If you have enough core strength and manipulation, you time it right that when you press with your leg drive and you flick your belly, you're able to add force from the ground through your core into the bar. Leg drive is a bit more than just driving with your legs through the bar into the bench press. Leg drive has multiple components that we went over today, and I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about. So we've got the two different types of foot position that is good for generating leg drive. We've got the stable foot position with a wide base with equal distance between your feet and your shoulders. And we've got the power leg drive, the power foot position for the leg drive, where you take a narrower base and you're able to spring off of your quads a little bit better. We also went over the direction that you should be driving with your legs through to the bar. And that is a horizontal direction so that your butt doesn't come up. A lot of the problems that a lot of people do when their butt comes up on the bench press is they're driving more vertically than they are horizontally. So their butt comes up to accommodate for that leg drive going vertically. So you want your leg drive to be horizontal so your butt doesn't come up. And you also get that spinal compression that's good at transferring power and force into the bar. So we went over foot position and direction of leg drive, and hopefully you apply these and you finally get laid. I'm getting disappointed that you're not getting laid enough. So do daddy proud. Follow these leg drive rules of thumb. Figure out which one is best for you and let me know in the comments. Because which leg drive is better for you is personally dependent. I personally use the stable leg drive, which derived from multiply powerlifting, where they've got heavy weights, and it's more about stability than it is about power because their shirts are supplying the power. A lot of lighter lifters, like my nutritionist Brianni Terry, takes a very narrow stance. And as long as your feet, your heels don't touch the bench press to get extra leverage, that is legal in competition. So you got to play around with where your foot position is, and then at least the leg drive is consistent between the two different types of foot position, because as long as you're pushing horizontal, you're leg driving correctly. And it's just fiddling with where your foot position is to the best benefit to your bench press as to what type of lifter you are. Are you a more stable lifter? You're going to bring the bar down a little bit slower, or are you a more explosive lifter where the bar is going to come down really fast and you're also going to press it really fast? So play around with your foot position, but make sure you practice that horizontal leg drive because it's going to benefit your bench press greatly once you master the art of leg drive. I've been Patrick. I'm stronger than you, and you need to get stronger. So follow my advice. Bye.